Howdy y'all, Caleb here. We've got a bat rep for you today. We're going to see some Seraphon versus some Stormcast Eternals. Hopefully the lists are a little bit different than what you normally see with these two matchups. So let's get on into it and we'll try to make this bat rep nice and clean here. So what we're looking at for my Seraphon list is a Saurus themed list. We're going to be going heavy on the Saurus Knights and including the battalion, the Firelance Temple-host. So we're going to have lots of knights in this list. So starting off, we're going to be in Constellation Koatl's Claw. That will give us the +1 to hit whenever we charge with Saurus, and we're going to have a lot of Saurus in here. So that's going to be the main theme of this, is to get some charges off with our knights and our big Carnosaurs, see what kind of damage we can do. Our general is the Veteran on Carnosaur, and he's taking the War Spear with command trait Dominant Predator and Artefact of Eviscerating Blade. The Dominant Predator gives him basically a better Aether Quartz brooch. Whenever he spends a command point, he has a chance to get him back. And you're going to be spending a lot of command points in this list, trying to buff up those knights, so that right there is quite good. Eviscerating Blade just helps you get some mortals on his spear. It's okay, but you have to take it as part of Koatl's Claw. I'm also going to take another Veteran on Carnosaur. He's going to be in support of the units of knights, and so I need one Veteran on Carnosaur. If I could, for each major unit, we're going to have two big wings of these that are going to go off. And we see that with the two Skink Starpriests. They're going to be there to give the knights mortal wounds, and so they can point their staff at a group of these Saurus Knights, and on 6s to wounds, they're going to be doing mortals. And that's good because each knight will have 7 attacks, and more if they're exploding from the command trait for the Veteran. And so you can get quite a few dice rolling from these guys, and so you have a good chance at some mortals. And that's why I've got 2 of those, a little redundancy, but also so I can have 2 wings of knights going forward with the Veterans and the Skink Starpriest. I'm also, Hand of Glory is a good spell for both of them. I took the same one because the other ones aren't really worth much. This will just basically gives a reroll hit rolls of 1. You're going to try to put that on the knights just to help them get more hits off. We've got Lord Kroak and the Stellar Tempest spell, so he can help deal with some hordes. And he's going to be your command point generator. Also, he does pretty nice on sniping the squishy support heroes throughout the game. This isn't really like a Kroak power build, though. He's really there to generate some command points and be a support for the Engine of the Gods, which, taking Engine of the Gods here, we're going to give him the Sacred Stegadon Helm, which is a +1 to his save. So he's a 3-up Stegadon, and he can hopefully summon some things for us. He can also deal out some mortal wounds or heal up the Carnosaurs as needed. He's kind of a utility piece here. And he's also pretty good at melee. So I like him, especially paired with Kroak. Kroak to kind of sit back, but also to support the engine to give him some summon capability. I've got 3 units of 10 knights, all with lances. So they'll hopefully be charging. And they all fit in the Firelance Temple-host. And the Firelance Temple-host gives them +3 to their charge as long as they're wholly within 18 of the general, that Veteran on Carnosaur. And that comes out to exactly 2,000 points, 111 wounds, and we got an extra command point starting there. So that's Koatl's Claw. That's my list right there. Just trying it out. I'm still building and painting my knights, as you'll see here when we get to the battle report, that they are not painted yet. All the mounts aren't. So I'm still working on those, but they have been fun. We've been playing them quite a bit in games here at the house, and I enjoy the knights. All right, my opponent, he's playing Hammers of Sigmar, Stormcast, and Hammers of Sigmar let you return a unit of Sequitors or Liberators on a 5-up when they're destroyed. You have to spend a command point for it, and it has to be on a 5-up. And then you get that entire unit back. So you only got one chance for it, but if it rolls off, that's pretty big. He's taking Lord Arcanum on Torline as his general. He's got the command trait We Cannot Fail, which gives a bubble of a 9-up, not a 9-inch bubble of a 6-up ward save. His artifact gives him a little bit of damage, I think. His spell, Stormcaller, is a board-wide spell. You roll a dice for every enemy unit on the table, and on a 6-up, they take D3 mortals. Not bad. Kind of is what Kroak does, but not quite as good. Mount trait just lets him reroll his runs. He's also taken Celestant Prime and Gavriel Sureheart. He wanted to pair Gavriel Sureheart up with the 20 Sequitors, and he's going to be ambushing 20 Sequitors and Gavriel Sureheart in somewhere to kind of clog up my lines, probably. He's got 2 units of Liberators just filling out his battle lines. He's got 4 Concussors, some of the hefty boys on Dracoths, and 3 Aetherwings. He's also got Everblaze Comet and an extra command point. He did come in 10 points under me, and so he got a Triumph, and the Triumph he rolled was for reroll wound rolls, and he'll end up using that on the Sequitors. So there's his list. Basically, clog me up with his Sequitors, hit me with the Concussors, and then try to get the Everblaze Comet and Prime on the important key targets. So we are playing Battle for the Pass, and you can see the setup here. We are playing long ways there, and you have 1 objective in your territory that's worth 1 for you, 4 for the enemy. The ones in the middle are worth 2, and so you can get a maximum of 9 points if you capture all the objectives. Here's our setup here, and I did outdrop him, so I was going to get to choose who got to go first. As you can see, I did get my Realm Shaper engine on my side, so that was big. Doesn't really come into play much, as you'll see here in a little bit, but I am able to get it on my side, which is nice. He just sets up 1 unit of Aether Wings, some Liberators, and his Arcanum, and then another unit of Liberators here. So he can easily capture that one. Aether Wings can capture this one on his first turn. But he doesn't have a lot of beef on the table. You can see I'm kind of setting up my units of Knights with Starpriest and a Carnosaur on each unit there. They're going to kind of support that. I did have to stretch this big long unit back here in kind of a screening unit because I knew he could drop down either the Sequitors or the Dracoths and hit my important stuff, which would be that Carnosaur that's a general, or this Engine of the Gods here, and Kroak. Kroak is actually deployed inside the Realm Shaper engine. It doesn't quite look like it there. But the way I have it deployed, he can't really get anything in over here on the board because we've got those backed up. So his only place to drop anything behind me is really over in this big patch here, which is kind of clogged with buildings, and hopefully will make it hard enough to hit anything vital. I do give him the first turn because I want him to move on the objectives and then let me charge. I know he's probably going to drop something down, but maybe he won't drop it all down, and see what will happen. Either way, I don't want to get double turned by whatever he drops into me, and so I did let him go first. So on his first turn, we got some army pictures here. His Aether Wings. There's some of our stuff lined up. So on his turn, he does get the Comet off. And so you can see, let's go back to that overview picture. I left a perfect little comet-shaped hole right here for him. And it happened to be just right about the right range for 36 inches. That thing, I play Stormcast enough that I loathe that Everblaze Comet. The thing does so much damage. Generally, I can prevent it coming down with Kroak. But this build here, Kroak's only +1 in my first turn to unbind, and so he did get it off. And you'll kind of see a theme this whole game. My casting is not, I could not roll well for my casting, unbinding, dispels. They just weren't happening for me this game. But he pops that Everblaze Comet right there, and unfortunately it is able, that 10-inch bubble hits basically my entire army. And so he does, it was something like 20 mortals or something to my entire army. So quite a useful spell there for Stormcast Eternals. So some probably bunched up a little bit too much, but I didn't want to give an open. You got to almost to screen them out. I don't have enough screens in this army, so I got to protect my important stuff, and I got hit by the comet. So you can see he drops down his Dracoths here. He's going to try to punch in on these Knights. He brought up his Liberators to that objective, ran them. The Aether Wings are here. They're capturing this one. And then he brought his big unit of Sequitors and Gavriel Sureheart behind me, and is going to pinch in on that unit. So we're looking at quite a bit of bodies coming in. He brought in everything, and he's just hitting hard up on this top corner. And so I think I'm going to be okay on this bottom one. I can push forward, and I'll have run of this objectives. Those Aether Wings aren't going to scare me in this army. They don't really have any shenanigans. They're just fast and cheap. But I am going to have to deal with quite a bit of stuff up here. So he does have Gavriel Sureheart with the Sequitors. There's the Dracoths he brought down. And he does get in all the Sequitors. So he had to spend a command point to re-roll that. So he's getting actually fairly low on command points. I think he started with one, but he had to use one for Gavriel, and then he had to use one to re-roll their charge. So he doesn't have any command points now. So if somehow I could wipe this thing before he got another turn, then he wouldn't have a chance to bring them all back, which would be pretty good. He does not get the charge with the Dracoths, but they shoot, I think they didn't shoot the Carnosaur that time. I think they just shot into more Knights. Yeah, you can see some more Knights killed there by their breath. They do D3 Immortals and stuff. And so they shot into those Source Warriors, or Source Knights, but they did not make the charge. His Sequitors do quite a bit of damage to the Knights. He used his Triumph, and he flipped them to the reroll their hits. So they were rerolling all their hits and all their wounds against my Knights, and so they clear those out pretty good. Generally, Sequitors aren't too killy, especially in this where their Grand Hammers, their 2 damage Grand Hammers aren't that big a deal, because I'm going to reduce that back down to 1. So they're not doing too much damage, but rerolling everything made them pretty potent. So you can see there, I've got quite a bit to deal with at the end of this turn. Luckily, he didn't get in enough to score my objective. I've still outbodied him there, but it's not looking good. I've got to deal with those Sequitors, and I know that on the next combat phases, he's probably just going to reroll all their saves. So he does score 5 points turn 1, and now it's over to me. Here's my try to dispel the comet. I unfortunately fail that, and that will be the running theme through a lot of these spells. I was able to kill off a couple Sequitors there with some spells from Kroak. I blasted all 4 of his spells, but just didn't do much damage with them. Kroak was not into it the first couple of rounds. I moved these Knights up here, and they're going to try to make the charge on those birds just to take those out. And the Carnosaur and the Skink Priest are putting their buffs on those Knights. Over here, we've got to deal with these Sequitors. And so I'm bringing Stegadon over here and Carnosaur over here to deal with them. And unfortunately, these guys are kind of stuck. I would have liked to charge them into those Dracoths, but they were pulled into combat from this Sequitor. And so we do have quite a few Knights here, 3 Knights left here, and then we got 2 big monsters. So I'm feeling good that I can take these Sequitors out this turn, and if I can do that, he won't have a command point, and he won't be able to bring them back. So I really want to take these guys out if I can. I do get the summons from the engine, so I bring in 10 Saurus Warriors back behind me, outside of 9 of his guys, but within 12, which isn't a bad. I mean, I always like summons, but this also kind of helps me protect from Prime that might come in if you decide to bring them in early in turn 2. Obviously, those Knights take out the Aether Wings and score that objective easy. We take out quite a few Sequitors, but not as many as I'd hoped. Rerolling their saves really, really makes them tough to chew through, especially when our biggest rend is -1. I got lots of buffs. I was spending command points like crazy on these Knights and on the Carnosaur, but he was rolling poorly. I think on his jaws, I missed just about every one of the jaws, which was brutal. But rerolling saves and only have -1 rend makes it really hard to get through those shields. So I didn't wipe the unit this turn. He is going to lose some to Battle Shock here, and I score 3 points in that turn. So I scored the one on the left that the Knights were on here, and then my own. We go to roll-off, and he wins roll-off. So that means we're going to be in trouble there with those Dracoths charging in as well. I don't think he got the Comet off. It was stayed there. He couldn't dispel it himself, and so it was going to stay there. It didn't pulse and hit anybody. I'd made sure and moved everyone out of 5 of it, so it didn't get pulsed at the top of the battle round. So that was good. So at least it's not coming down again. He is going to bring in his Dracoths this turn. He does get a couple. I think he got his board-wide spell off maybe, and that hurt. I think he got a couple of wounds onto maybe the Carnosaur and probably one of the Knights. So now he's bringing his Dracoths in, and he's going to charge into those Knights there. I think he put the Mortals onto the Carnosaur this time. Helped kind of bracket the Carnosaur down quite a bit. And he's charging into those Knights right there. So we've got some Sequitors up top, and we've got these Dracoths that are going to deal with these Knights right here. He obviously clears those Knights with those Dracoths. They are pretty tough, and they can do quite a bit of damage. I did get some damage through on that, but that must have been from last turn, I think. So that's how the turn ended. He still holds this upper objective and this one, and now I believe he has this objective too. He's got these 4 guys in, and then he had a couple of Sequitors still in. And he had gotten real close to killing that Carnosaur with Sequitors, unfortunately. Between the Mortals here and the Sequitors, I think he had busted it down to maybe 1 wound left. It was real low, and so I'm running out of models here on this objective. I know it's my next turn, and if I can keep this Carnosaur alive here, then I'm able to get these guys in range to make a big charge. And so I'm going to bring these Knights back because I've got to deal with these Dracoths, and this Carnosaur who's barely alive isn't gonna do it. So that's the end of his turn. He does score 7 points to give him a total of 12, and then it's on to my turn in turn 2. I'm able to kill off the rest of his Sequitors, and now comes the roll-off. He spends a command point. On a 5-up, he's going to get all 20 Sequitors back, anywhere on the board outside of Knight of Me. So this is a nerve-wracking roll for both of us. Luckily, he rolls a 2. Oh, man, because you don't want to have to deal with those 20 Sequitors again, re-rolling all their saves. So I take off 1 Dracoth in the hero phase, take off the rest of his wounds, Pulse and Kroak stuff. I get another Summons up here from the engine, which is nice. I'm just kind of creating my little flying V here, which is actually a defensive V, just to keep Prime from hitting my important parts here in the next turn. So I've got to turn all this attention onto these Dracoths, but I'm also bringing my Knights in from the other side because I need to take these guys out so I can get my objective back. I am able to get these Knights wholly within 18 of this General, who only has 1 wound left, so that they can make the long charge. And then I get the mortal wounds on them. I have the reroll 1s to hit. I spend a command point to give them another +1 to hit. They get a +1 to hit because they charged. And then I spend another command point from the Scar Vet to give them 6s to explode. So I had a bunch of command points. I was able to pump them up pretty big. And we had 7 Knights going into those Dracoths. And so that's about as buffed up as I can make them. And they were able to do pretty well. They were able to clear all the rest of the Dracoths, but they left 1 wound left. I think they had caused, it was something like 30 saves and 10 mortal wounds. But those Dracoths are 3-up, rerolling 1s. And with no rend, it was really just the mortals that did damage. And so I needed 1 more wound to get through to clear that guy, but couldn't quite make it. And so now he's got 1 Dracoth, and he's looking to take off that last bite from the Carnosaur. And he does. He removes that Carnosaur with the Dracoth left on 1 wound. And then I'm just going to pile in those other 2 knights, which these are actually from 2 separate units. They're going to come in. They had charged, so they could still pile in, and they take out the Dracoth there that was left. So that's how the board looks. We're getting low on models here. He's just got his 2 units of Liberators back here. Nothing on this objective. I've got 2 heroes here, and then most of my bodies are back here. So I've spent a lot of time. I've spent 2 full turns clearing his big blocks, but they've kind of served his purpose. You know, they've kept me in my backfield for 2 turns so far, and he's scored this one unabated. And so I've got to play a little catch up. I score 3 points in that turn, so now it's I've got 6 and he's got 12. So we got some room to make up. I do get the turn. I am going to get the double turn here, and so that helps. I'm going to be able to get on the unclaimed objective he's got over there. So you can kind of see I'm moving my knights up to grab that one. I've got to start applying pressure this way, and then I'm spreading these heroes out. They can't really do too much on their own over here, but I know Prime is going to come down and hit one of these, and so I want to try to make sure that I can keep one of them on the objective so he can't score it. Everything else is just moving up. I'm also kind of protecting my backside in case Prime is coming in, and that's what these guys are doing here also, protecting from a Celestant Prime arrival. I do get another summons. Hey, so far we're 3 for 3 on the summons from the Engine of the Gods. So he's at this point he has made up his points. Everything else from here is just bonus. So I bring these guys in and provide another screen against Prime, but also we're putting them at the max range from the engine that we can so that they can head off towards that objective on the ensuing turns. At some point I did flip Kroak's spell over to the healing spell so that I can start trying to heal my guys back up. There's no more hordes left, so I'm not worried about the Stellar Tempest anymore. So I score 5 points on that one, so I've got 11 to 12 at this point, and now it's his turn. So he brings in just enough Liberators coming up this side. He's got 2 in to score that objective if nothing else happens. He was able to maybe Arcane Bolt or Storm Call off that Skink Priest there, put some wounds on him. And so just these 2 guys here will score this objective. So he didn't have to bring Prime in there, but doing so, you know, he could pretty much take out that guy because he's only got 8 wounds left. So that's not a bad option. And that's what he does. He brings Prime in, coming towards that Carnosaur, and he makes the charge. He throws his comet on him, does some mortals, and Carnosaur is gone. Now he's fully committed to the table. So now we know where Prime is. He is committed to that side, and he's only got 3 models on that objective. And that's pretty much everything he had left. You know, he doesn't have anything else left in the sky. And so I can start outbodying him on objectives from this point on, as long as I can hold on. So he scores 3 that turn, so he's got 15, and I've got 11. So he's still ahead, but I'm slowly catching up, making up the extra space there. So we go to roll off, and I win the roll off. So he won. He had the first 2 priorities, and I've had the last 2 priorities. So going into turn 4, I do get the objective or the priority, and this is big because I'm able to push my warriors up, and I'm not engaging Prime. There's no way these warriors are going to do anything to Prime. But I can outbody him, and I got good runs. I changed the Constellation to run to +1 to their runs, and then I had a ton of command points at this point, and no Carnosaurs left. So we're spending command points from this guy and Kroak on these when they were back a little closer, just to make them run max, so I can provide a 1 layer here and then another layer here, to where even if on his turn he kills off this first unit of guard of warriors, I'm still potentially have more bodies in than he is. It depends on what he does with these Liberators. He doesn't have a whole lot here, but I've got bodies on him. So we're going to try to exploit that. Over on this side, I'm just bringing these 2 small knights in just to give some bodies on that objective so he can't steal it. He did still have Gavriel Sureheart that was like slowly walking up this way, but it wasn't going to be a threat. But I had to make sure he couldn't just like run and tiptoe onto this objective. These knights here are going to come down. I can't do it this turn. I couldn't make it this far. This was their run, but I've got to start pushing forward. And hopefully maybe he can fail a charge or can't kill them off, and then I can get into his objective on the next turn. So that's the plan. No combat. We do a little activation from the Engine of the Gods, and guess what? Another summons. So far we're 4 for 4 on summons. This is what I like from the Engine of the Gods. Obviously that's not statistically normal, but that is nice. I only have 40 Saurus Warriors right now, so I can't summon next turn or I'm in trouble. So that's the way it ends. I score 5 points there, and now it's 16 to 15. I'm finally up on him. And it's going into his turn, though. On his turn, he makes a move. He knows he's got to deal with these knights. And so he's going to come over here and attack them with his Torline and with his Liberators. If he can take those out, then it's pretty much game over, because I don't have anything that can threaten turn 5 to get past that. And he can hold this objective and hold the one on the right side, and I won't be able to do anything. So if he can clear off those knights, it's game over. Over here, he's going to take Prime into these guys and clear those warriors out and just start working here. But there's just not really enough time in this game, I think, for him to work through all the bodies and threaten this objective. But he will clear out this one, and as with these guys, he'll be able to score it. So that's what he does. He charges in. He makes sure he stays outside of 3 of these, so that even he doesn't pile in and charge these Liberators all the way, because he doesn't want me to be able to pile these warriors in to get more bodies. He makes a charge over here, does a mortal to him on the Tor line. He does make sure he's outside of 3 of his Liberators, because he's going to blow up his flasks from the Tor line. And that's what he does. He does all 3 flasks and blows up 3 knights and takes out some wounds of his own, but saves. I think he actually saved 1 or 2 of them from his command ability, so that was nice. But he is working down his knights here, or my knights. Over on this side, he attacks with Prime first and clears off those warriors. And then over here, he takes out 1 knight with the Liberators, and I think he probably made a mistake. He probably should have attacked with the Tor line, but it was real close. I'm not sure that after he had blown up his flasks, he could have gotten within range to attack any of them, but maybe he could have. I was able to clear off 1 Liberator, and 1 knight was left. And luckily, he passed Battle Shock. And so that was critical right there, because now I have 1 knight left. So we'll talk about that here in a second. So he scores this objective and his home objective. And so he gets 3 points. I think we got a scoreboard here. Yep, he got 3 points, so now it's 18 to 16. So he's still up 2. But let's look at this board. If he gets the turn in turn 5, it's game over. He wins. He'll score his objective. He'll score this objective and his own. So he would score 5 points, and there's really nothing I could do against that. He'll kill off that 1 last night and start working on these warriors with Prime, and I'll be toast. But if I get the objective, if I get the priority, then I can take this little guy here and run him onto his objective, which is left unabated. Is that the right word? Which is left undefended. There you go. I like that one better. And I'll be able to score 4, 5, 6, 7, which means I would be in the lead. And so this roll-off is important. This roll-off in turn 5 is for the game. And it's a tie. We roll a tie, which means tie goes to whoever went first last turn, and that was me. So Seraphon won the priority. This little knight here, who doesn't have a rider yet, was able to head down to his objective and score that objective. I was able to bring more warriors over to this side and warriors over to this side. So I was actually able to score all 4 objectives in this last turn. And so I was able to score 9 points. That brought me to 25. And he was not going to be able to come back from that. So we called the game at that point. Seraphon gets the win in a tight matchup. It's always nice when a game comes down to that final roll in turn 5. And so it was a fun game. I think if we were to do it again, he might have only engaged those warriors with maybe the Tor line or the Liberators and not both. He really needed to leave something back here to protect this. Because I could just steal it with 1. Or if he just gotten lucky and gotten that 1 more knight dead or battle shocked, it was a good battle shock roll, he would have won. So close game. It was a fun one. I think my MVP definitely goes to the Engine of the Gods this turn. He summoned in 40 warriors for me this turn, and those bodies is what 100% won me the game. So without those bodies, I wouldn't have had a chance here. I would have been down so low on bodies, and Prime would have been smashing me up that I would have been out of luck. So good game. Thank you, Engine of the Gods. Kroak, you need to work on your casting a little bit next time. Yeah, so spend the weekend thinking about that and come in on Monday and get that casting better. All right, so that was my Firelance versus a Gavriel Sequitur bomb with Dracoths. So maybe a little off meta lists here maybe. So, but it was a fun game. We had fun throwing some dice around. So, all right, catch y'all later.